Live from the Green Room Studios, from the spacious property of Bates Nursery and Garden Center, 3810 Whites Creek Pike, it's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates.
Oh, yeah, everybody knows what that music means. Hey, it's time to climb a tree, don your loincloth, and survey the backyard, because you got to find a project, you got to lay it in the unmarked grave for history. Welcome in, everybody. That's an old reference, by the way, Adam. So it goes back to the radio days. Hey, we're here for you. It's the At Home Show coming to you alive here from the Green Room Studios at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. As you notice, El Jefe himself is
what happened, Josh?
I don't know where he went.
It's like you pressed a button and he went away and you came back.
Poof. Yeah, well, it's how those things happen sometimes. But Senor Bates is on assignment, as we say here on the At Home Show, and he'll be back next week for sure. I've been off a couple of weeks, had been a little down, had this little virus that's going around here in the world, but that's okay. We're here for you because it's not only the At Home Show, it's Gator Hater edition of the At Home Show this morning.
Amen.
Absolutely, because we got the whole crew in here, less David Bates. So Tyler's over there.
Hello.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Adam's sitting to the right here in the big man's chair. Across the studio, we have the brains and the beauty of this outfit.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Who's who?
Brains.
I don't know.
Brains.
Austin's the beauty.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
He is cute.
He's the diva.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bringing the drama.
Diva.
And we've got information to get to. We've got plants all over the studio. We've got everything for you. So we're going to continue on and do the program as it goes on every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. Hey, if you're out on YouTube, join us. If you're on Facebook, join us. Like, share on all platforms. I hear that's the new thing to say, Tyler.
All platforms.
All platforms. Like, share.
All platforms.
All the platforms and bring them up.
Which would be two in our case.
Well, it is. Because we're out there.
Well, it is.
Instagram as well, though.
We're on
we don't
Twitter.
stream
We're
this.
on Twitter. We share it.
We're hip.
So
We're hip.
we're cool. And as we say, it's early, so you have to get your gardening projects done early because there is a little bit of football going on this weekend in Middle Tennessee.
That is true.
So
Pretty big game today, I think.
and as we say, we're going to invite you out to Bates Nursery because, boy, this place is full of stuff, guys.
Boy, is it.
I mean, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been out here, but there is more material on this lot than
Yeah,
I
we've
think
gotten a
there's
truck or 10, but since you were here, so just 5 yesterday. So
is that all?
that was it.
Before lunch?
Sure.
Okay.
Actually,
They were all before lunch.
Yeah, except for one. No, one showed up at like 3 o'clock. So
There
2:30.
are some huge trees out there especially I saw some beautiful Japanese maples.
Yes,
out
that's the
there.
Isley truck we got in 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So still have lots of selections on that one. Really, really nice stuff. So.
But I mean, if you want to make a statement, I mean, you can see them in their glory, and you're going to put that out in the yard. It's going to be out there, and it's going to look like that, and they're just huge. I mean, massive. So I mean, it's, that one out there is at least it's sitting on top of the pavement. It's got to be at least 10 or 12 feet tall.
Pretty close. The biggest ones are with the box they're in, approaching 10 foot.
So they're actually in a box. I didn't get out there to take a look at them, but I mean, is that?
Yeah, they're in that the Isley wooden box they ship them in. So.
Are we going to have to separate those two over there?
I'm making some camera shenanigans that's happening right now.
Okay.
We should probably dive into the weather, get that out of
Yeah,
the way.
that-
All
we
right,
are
let's see
having
what we
weather.
got here.
Okay.
So if you've been outside this morning, you may notice it's cloudy as opposed to yesterday that was very sunny. Still moderate temperature-wise. It's I hope that we are done with the 90-degree days, and that we are fully into fall mode. As you can see, we have a couple more days in the 80s and then a bunch of 70s after that. So that's very nice, and even some lows in the 40s during the middle of the week and the beginning of the week. So get your flannel out and
Lined breeches are going to come out of the closet.
Yes, you might need your thermal underwear. I don't know, depending on your sensitivity to cold.
Yeah, you might want to dust off the old fire pit too.
Oh, I've already done that, my friend.
Now,
and I will be doing that on Monday probably.
should we
as
be
well.
bringing our tropicals in just yet, or is it?
As long as you're staying above 40 to 45, you're usually okay. Unless you have a clear sky and there might be threat of frost, then you'd want to either cover them or bring them in. So real quick look at the radar here, because you've probably also noticed, if you've been outside, that you might feel something coming from the sky that is from a distant memory. It's called rain. And we haven't had it for a while. So got some scattered showers in the area, mostly in the upper Tennessee and lower Kentucky region there. There's some on up into the Ohio Valley area. So hopefully we'll get something out of this, because we get dry. We'd be dry.
I ended up doing some supplemental watering on the dapple willows that I got.
Yes.
Because this is their very first year, and they started to look a little scraggly. So got a good soaking in on those, and got a couple other things going on. I guess it's time to get to some questions, or we're going to ramble here a little bit.
Let's do it.
Send it on
All
over.
right.
So
Bring that camera over here. There I am.
to the brain section.
That's right.
Okay.
Brains coming in hot. Here we go. Large trees, best to cut limbs off when they are dormant? That's a question.
It's a good question. Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah, so whenever plants go dormant, especially big deciduous trees, it's certainly time to prune them over the wintertime if you want to. It's not a lot of,
Sap.
Yeah,
The sap goes to the roots, and usually, they're dormant, so the bigger hits to them, they don't, doesn't hurt them as much. So
It's easier to see the limbs you want to take off.
and that's
too.
that's also true.
Yes.
Yes.
Most definitely. So get them pruned. I did a job last year, a little side job for a customer who had a large Japanese maple. It was 30 years old, and it was in the front of his home. He had planted it, like I said, 30 years ago, and one of his limbs was starting to get off into his sidewalk area, and he had to. He wanted to prune it, but he was very, very
Afraid?
nervous to
Yes.
prune it because it was a big Japanese maple. And whenever you say Japanese maple, well, people get a little nervous about that. They
Yes.
think it's like a finicky tree or something just because they're expensive. It's not the case at all, y'all. It was a big, large tree, and I had to prune it. There was no other way around it. And I went in there with a chainsaw and just chainsawed some really big
Can't
limbs.
believe you did that.
I know. But it was dormant, so I had no leaves, so I was able to really see the limbs and what I wanted to keep and what I wanted to not keep. And that's what I did. I pruned it up, and he sent me a picture later on in the spring after it had leafed out, and it leafed out beautifully, and just a really pretty good-looking tree after we had done some pretty severe pruning on it. So no matter what tree you're doing, and after it drops its leaves over the winter, when it's deciduous, go ahead and prune it up and get it how you want it.
Well, one thing I like to remind folks, and believe me, I understand, when you spend $500 on a tree and it grows for 5 or 6 years or 7 years, however long, and you realize I got to prune something off of this, it's still a maple.
Yep.
It's just a maple.
Exactly.
Just a tree.
It'll be okay.
Well, and I
So-
mean, if you're using chainsaw again, folks, you don't use one very often. Be
No.
very, very careful.
Yes,
know what
please.
you're doing. Watch a YouTube video, maybe even to watch
On
and see
on how to
on how to safety goggles and hearing protection as
leather chaps maybe on your legs.
well. Well,
Definitely.
it's not a bad idea.
I only say that because my father years ago almost cut his leg off with one because it got loose. I mean, you just don't know what they're going to do sometimes.
Oh,
and it got into his leg pretty
well,
bad.
and
so-
Austin, correct me if I'm wrong. When you're working on those bigger limbs, you're cutting in a way that you're going to bring that saw down from the top. And if you go, oh well, we'll just get it all in one fell swoop. It's probably better to take off a little bit at a time.
Yes, rather than have all that weight hanging out there. And
Yeah, you kind of with a chainsaw, you follow gravity. So you make sure you cut it at a way to where that limb is going to open where you're making that cut, so it peels kind of down, and so that's you pick those limbs that way, and cut it from the top. Typically, you're going to cut it from the top down, and it's going to lay down and open. And another really good tool that I've mentioned a number of times is a sawzall. It's a little bit less scary than a chainsaw, because chainsaws are scary to use. They really are. So a sawzall, especially now, they have battery powered sawzalls.
Yeah.
You can just click in a battery and use, and they work really well for smaller cuts that you have to make, but still a little bit bigger than like having to use loppers or something.
Right.
So
Right.
a really good tool.
The tip on that is I would use as heavy a blade as you could, because
Yes.
don't cheap out. Don't cheap out. Don't buy the $1.99 at
No.
let's just say a freight place or somewhere northern, use a good thick blade, because the one thing about a reciprocating saw is that it will bind, and if you, even more so than the chainsaw, because if you get that weight going on it, it's going to bend that blade, and then you're going to have a tiger by the tail if you lock the trigger in. So, but awesome, good shot, and just cut them. Cut them as you need them. Now, a lot of folks also say that you want to let some of that stuff harden off. So, I mean, if they were doing lower limbs, it would be a good idea to go ahead and maybe get.
Maybe. I mean, I always tell folks, if you're doing a little bit of pruning here and there, there's almost no time that you can't do that. I mean, if you just have a few things here or there that are kind of bugging you, or even if you can foresee a smaller limb right now being a problem later, it's better to go ahead and just, whenever you see it, just to go ahead and cut it off. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're, whenever you're, say, mowing or something and you've got lower limbs that are smacking you in the head every time you have to go around it, it's time to prune those off. And like Adam said, there's no bad time to do that, really. I mean, with a large tree especially, you're not going to hurt anything by taking off some lower limbs. So it's mainly, based on us and our needs and what that plant's doing. And if it's getting in your way, and cut it off.
Now, the one last thing I'm going to say about safety, do not do any of this from a ladder.
No.
Try your best not to.
Yeah.
No, that's not good. Bad things happen.
We have a great video of Austin with a chainsaw pruning a fruit tree
on a ladder
somewhere on the internet. Unfortunately, no, he's not on the ladder, so he's being safe. We went out to Witt Farm. Tyler, is that right?
Yes.
Last winter.
Oh, yeah, I pruned the full out of that.
Yes, you did. You pruned the full out of that thing. You absolutely did. Yep. So maybe we'll try to reshare it.
It's yet to be posted, but it will be published this winter because it was a dormant pruning, and then we'll do a follow up on it to kind of
that'll be nice
follow up that.
But hey, let's talk about Caroline at your house. We had a plant that was not dormant, but you had a large hickory.
Yes.
Just tell them.
Pretty much half of a very mature hickory tree fell down during a storm we got a couple months ago. And I don't have a chainsaw, and my husband was out of town. And so I said, hey, Austin, you want to come over and bring your whole fam and get your chainsaw and just, take one little slice and cut this branch down?
Well, your hickory tree literally laid over and it smashed a magnolia you have.
It
a beautiful
did.
magnolia. It was huge. Took a big chunk out of it.
Now it's got a bald spot, but it's okay. But instead of one cut, you had to do more like 25.
Yeah. Caroline thought I was going to make like 3 cuts and it was going to be done.
You just got to cut this branch and then we'll drag it off.
It was a job.
But yeah, Austin knows how to work a chainsaw, so
kind of
pretty cool. Yeah. Well, better than me. All right, enough chainsaw talk. You guys ready for another question?
It's getting to be Halloween.
Let's dive in.
So it's spooky season time.
Yeah.
Time for those chainsaw noises. All right, we've got a little critter question from our very own Miriam. Good morning, Miriam.
Hey, Miriam.
Hello.
How do I keep rogue squirrels from eating my pumpkins?
22.
Rogue squirrels.
22 long rifle. Am I
410 with birdshot.
410.
Right?
Okay, we'll do better. All right.
Yeah.
Miriam, I'm sorry. Squirrels are the worst. Squirrels are absolutely the worst. It's a really hard battle. Mr. Bates, I know, has trapped squirrels in the past and had pretty good success with that. But there's not a great, there's deterrents. We sell animal repellents here. You kind of have to keep on them. I know Ann, who works here in the office, who answers the phone for us, an avid gardener, she really talks about the repellents, and she uses them, and she says they actually work. But she has to use them a lot.
Yes.
I mean, like literally like once a week or once every 2 weeks.
They're not inexpensive either.
And they're not inexpensive.
No.
It's a...
But you know what is inexpensive? a 22 long rifle.
Yeah.
Shell. It's pretty inexpensive.
Miriam, where do you live? I don't know if she can use that.
I'm half kidding, but if you live in the country, that's my solution.
I've got a 22
outside
long.
city limits.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're in city limits, you got to use repellents or trap them, or
Even a pistol with a birdshot.
maybe get an outside cat. I don't know.
Yeah, cats are helpful.
That's not a bad idea.
Some of those feral squirrels, though. I mean,
But I read an article about outside cats, or maybe it was I listened to one on NPR or something, where they're encouraging people to not have outside cats because they're destroying the bird population.
Absolutely.
So,
And the lizards and the amphibians.
Yes.
2.4 billion birds a year.
yep.
Whoa.
Cats
But-
are crazy.
Billion.
Well, and maybe feed them something else, Miriam. I mean, again, that's the thing. I've seen folks put peanuts and corn and stuff like that out, and it had a little bit of success where they're going to go eat what they like. Because I don't imagine there's a lot of pumpkin out there in the squirrel world.
I don't think so.
No, so I mean, it's
That's a good idea, Josh. Actually, it really is having a little feed trap, if you will.
and the little chair with the nail on it that you put the dried corn cob on top. Oh, they're cute, and they sit there and they spin them around and have a big time.
That's
So-
a good idea.
That's also, if you're in the country, you could do that with your rifle in hand.
Puts them into a standing
There
position.
you
so,
go.
Okay,
Okay, what if said person lives in a city
slingshot.
with
Oh, a slingshot.
a slingshot? Okay.
Those are cool. Bart
So
Simpson
cool.
What
style.
about, I guess,
You could throw the corn in
pellet
a
guns
neighbor's
would
yard.
make a very large
I
noise.
also happen to know that Amazon sells hand crossbows.
There's a lot of
Yeah, try that if you're feeling
options. I'm
just saying.
feeling bold enough.
Just saying.
Just
cool.
saying.
I think we gave Miriam quite a few.
You know, there are traps too. You could trap a squirrel.
Well, we mentioned that.
Yeah,
David
so-
traps them and releases them
On his
into
own property,
places.
though.
I don't
See,
know.
that's the thing. Again, I don't think there's. I think there's some statutes out there that
You have to
cannot-
look up TWRA's guidance
Yes.
on
Yes.
catching and releasing critters. Because typically you can't just round up a raccoon and toss it into the woods somewhere else.
Actually, no, you actually can't do that. They frown upon that. But
Okay.
Probably squirrels too.
I want to point out something that I
Okay.
just noticed. Austin and I are dressed to match our table over here. We're like ketchup and mustard. Look at that.
there you go.
Speaking
Wow.
of what we did this week, we went straight up fall themed, y'all. We got pumpkins in this week, okay?
Yes, you did.
Oh
It
my
it
gosh,
is
we did.
I don't
pumpkin
see any in
spice
here,
latte.
though. You
We
didn't
didn't
bring any in here?
No, we didn't have enough. We got our first little shipment. It's kind of small. So we didn't want to bring any pumpkins in here so we'd miss out on sales out there because we have a limited
amount.
right now. We're bringing in more next week. But we certainly went with the fall theme this week. Mums are out.
So many mums.
Oh, mums.
How many
Look at
colors?
'em.
8?
8 different
Are,
colors.
did
I
you
don't
just
know. I
say
just
that?
said that.
8. Well, you
Wait a minute,
said it
are
with
you-
confidence,
Probably.
So
Well, you know, we
there's
also,
some right there. We
we-
also what?
we also have some multicolor ones. We got some with 3 different colors in one pot.
Yeah.
You do not.
Yes,
I'm-
we,
Now that's
I'm not
just
joshing
crazy.
you, Josh.
we didn't bring those in.
Well, this one over here that's to the right in front of Tyler, that's got the burnt orange on it.
I like that one.
That one is really.
I love
pretty.
that one. You know who doesn't though?
Who's that?
This guy.
I like that one okay. It's the other one I didn't like.
No.
Yes.
You were
No.
smack talking that mom yesterday.
Well, we have the traditional yellow and we have the red that everybody's always seen, but that one's just got a different kind of shade to it that's certainly appealing.
kind of a combo.
You know, I think yellow's still number one seller. What do y'all think? I'm still with the yellow. It pops. Yellow pops better than anything
It does,
in
yeah.
the flower world, I think. And yellow mums like behind Adam and Tyler over there.
Yep.
Those mums are money. I
They're
mean,
ready to go.
they're as full show as
Though-
full. No,
yeah.
they're half show, but they're just perfect.
They're about
light.
to be full show.
Yeah.
There they are. Look how big and luscious they are. Tyler, show those off.
Here's my hands for scale.
Yes.
Well, wait, we're still talking about the mums, right?
Still.
Okay.
But anyway, yep, we got our fall thing going. So
Fall has arrived at Bates Nursery.
Very good.
You want to keep slapping up questions?
No,
What?
that's
No.
it. Just kidding. Yes. All right. How should I overwinter elephant ears planted in a large ceramic outdoor pot? What I suggest doing is letting that plant go dormant and then taking the bulb out of the pot. So I usually wait until first light frost that's just going to kill back the leaves, kill back that foliage, and then I'm going to cut it all the way back to the dirt. And then with it being in a large pot and winter coming, I would go ahead and dig that up. I would store it in like a cool, dark place for a couple weeks to let it completely dry out. You don't want it to have any moisture in it because it'll rot once you do kind of stick it in storage and forget about it. So after 2 to 3 weeks, you can put it in a paper bag and put it in a nice, dark, dry closet. You know, I've done a drawer before, but then I forgot about it for a long time. But yeah, just dig it up, let it basically go to sleep, and then plant it next spring when it starts to warm up, and it should be just fine.
Hey, I know you talked about some caladiums the other day, and you had a good point, I thought. And what about if you just leave those bulbs in the pot in the dry soil, but like in your garage?
You could do that as well. Yeah, if you don't want to dig it up. If that pot's not too large. I know sometimes I see elephant ears in huge pots. You might not want to move that. But yes, that is another option. Same thing, let it go dormant, cut the leaves back, and then just move that pot into your garage. And don't water it, just let it hang out.
Yeah, it's got to stay dry. Those bulbs, they'll rot.
They will rot so fast.
It's so funny how elephant ear is like such a water-loving plant during the season, but then over the winter, whenever it's dormant, don't you keep that thing wet.
Don't you do it.
I think it could be part of the reason is that they're just not used to going dormant where they live normally.
Exactly,
So,
yeah. That's a good point as well.
Yeah.
Now, would that hold true for a banana tree?
Banana doesn't have bulbs. That's not a bulbous plant. It's an herb, actually.
Really?
Fun fact, yeah. Banana is an herb. Yeah, it is. It's herbaceous. So that's how we classify herbs. They don't ever get woody.
Right.
It's got green stems the whole way up. Yeah. So, Josh, no, you're not going to do anything with your, cold hardy bananas are extremely cold hardy. Like really, like -20, -30. I've read they can really go down to. So, even elephant or bananas in pots, you could almost just cut that. You're going to see they're going to get whacked by the frost. They look horrible.
Yes.
And they just lay down.
They turn to mush.
Yes, they turn to mush. So you can just clear cut those to the dirt, and they should return without a problem without doing any prep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So elephant ears are a little bit different because they're a little bit,
Just
marginal.
don't expect any bananas.
No.
Don't expect bananas. They're
No,
not
my
Well, the growing season's not long enough here for them.
I had there was a bar in Murfreesboro.
Really?
Yeah, I never attended it.
no.
You never attended the bar?
Anyway, there was a guy there that was into plants, and he built himself a plastic structure like a greenhouse outside of the bar
Over his bananas.
over his bananas.
Oh, yeah.
And one year I saw bananas dangling from that tree.
No, you did not.
I did.
How
I'm
big
not
was
lying.
that structure?
I mean, I was blurry-eyed looking at it, but
But
no,
you never attended
You were
the
looking
bar.
through the
so how did you
plastic.
see it?
You're right. I was walking by it.
You don't
wasn't
attend
over-
bars.
It wasn't on Old Fort Parkway, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't. I haven't been in
was it?
Murfreesboro. It was.
I only remember Gentleman Gems.
It was right there across from campus. I can't even remember what it was.
I'll
Like
tell
I said,
you,
I'd
just
never been there.
from my experience, that yes, you can grow bananas, like they will fruit, but you will never see them through to maturity and ripeness.
That's really what I mean. I mean,
the hardy-
you're not gonna, unless you do like that gentleman did and build some kind of structure.
And even then, if you were growing Musa Bosju, which is the hardy fiber banana that is cold hardy, it's not really the best edible variety.
No.
And you'll probably find it kind of yuck.
Yeah. Hey, y'all want to know a little fun fact about bananas?
Absolutely.
Bananas are naturally parthenocarpic, and what that means is they do not produce seed naturally. Only
Well,
very rarely do they produce
they are
seed.
because they're part of the plantain family and they're like an offshoot. I think every banana that we eat is genetically exactly the same. Is that correct?
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you think about eating bananas, where are the seeds at? There's no seeds inside that banana, hardly ever. And they naturally reshoot from their roots. That's how they produce new plants.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. We as humans try to make plants naturally, or not naturally, but we try to make them parthenocarpic, like watermelon. Say you have your seedless watermelon. That's interesting, but that's hard to achieve. And even a seedless watermelon
Has seeds.
will produce seeds.
Yes.
They're just not near as many.
No.
It's kind of funny you think about it. We had a guest one time order a packet of seed
For seedless
watermelons.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you? That's just a funny thought. So, there's still going to be some seeds in there.
So it's seedless.
It's
less
Less
seed.
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 Should
There
be
you go,
less
Tyler.
seed.
That-
But
less seed.
if you had a parthenogenic seed, parthenogenic, and you had
Partheno what?
you were going to try to propagate those from seed, even though they don't produce seeds, what would you plant that in?
Well, I would think that it depends on where you're planting it. Are
Well,
you planting it in a pot? Are you planting it in the ground? Because if it's in a pot, I would use Organics I or
Yeah,
Organic
because-
So.
Your best
The earth
chance
mix
of getting
product.
an earth mix product,
Yes.
of course.
Most definitely. Adam's talking about Proganics I, which is our indoor mix, which
Yes.
Caroline uses all the time.
All the time.
And I use it all the time for seed starting. I mean, it's such a good mix. It's light, it drains well. You can keep those seeds moist but not wet. that is the key to seedlings. If there's a little process called damping off, and that means your seeds are staying too wet. Don't want to do that.
Nope.
And Proganics Eye really does a good job of draining well. So
yes, and it does so because it has core in it, coconut core, instead of peat moss. So it is sustainable and a very good product for indoor or even outdoor pots. If you wanted to use it outdoor, you could do so. Now you can find Earth Mix at any of the, or most of, I should say, the local garden centers.
The better
around
independent
town.
centers around town.
And it's a great product. I use it at my house constantly. Usually I use Landscape, which is our, Earth Mix great soil amendment. It's got all the nutrients and good stuff you need to grow pretty much any tree or shrub or really anything in the ground. So
you can find it in multiple states now.
Yeah, we're in Kentucky, Ohio. If you want to know if you're close to an Earth Mix distributor, just go to the website earthmix.net here and go to the Finder. Find Earth Mix, and you can find it. So.
Show you what they have in stock as well.
Yep.
We got a handy soil calculator too.
That is really the key. I mean, because you know what kind of equipment to bring with you. So I mean, if you're going to get a small bag, a couple of bags, you can usually put that even in a Prius, but that's no problem at all. But if you needed a bunch of
20 bags or more,
20 bags or more, you don't want to buy less than you need and make multiple trips. Correct. That wasn't me.
It was not. I don't even have my radio yet.
Okay. But you can get it. You can get it here at Bates, and you can find other things that are moving on, and find it around Middle Tennessee and growing east of the Mississippi River for sure. Yep, absolutely. Oh,
good stuff.
It is really good. You know, the key is you can need Earth Mix, plants, sunshine, and water.
Yep,
you're good to go.
Sometimes music.
Music doesn't hurt. No, music.
They love it.
They really do. Caroline, do we have more questions?
We do have more questions, yes. Will a maypop grown in a container still recover from winter's frost?
Lord, yes.
I would say so. We talked about these a couple weeks ago. Tyler and I have differing opinions on planting them in ground near your home and in a garden bed. But it is such a hardy plant. I can't kill it. I've even pulled it up out of the ground, and it's just kind of been sitting on top of some soil, and it's survived.
Sounds like you really haven't tried, though.
Now, maypop is
I don't
what
know.
now?
Even if you do try to kill a maypop.
It's a passion flower.
Passion flower.
It's our state wildflower.
It is. It sends off crazy runners that just grow so quickly and so aggressively. I mean, if I don't weed that garden bed that I didn't accidentally plant it. I did it on purpose before I knew what I was doing. If I don't weed for a week, it will take over my hydrangeas and anything else I have planted in there.
I don't know that I'd ever heard it referred to as a maypop.
A maypop.
Yeah, people call them that. I don't know why. The fruit is edible. I don't think it tastes
because
like
they pop up in May, Austin.
Oh,
in
wow.
May.
The maypop.
It's a gorgeous
They
flower.
appear almost out of nowhere and instantaneously, and then all of a sudden, boom, they've got blooms on them.
The blooms
are the coolest thing.
They are literally, me and Caroline literally just talked about this the other day. One of my favorite flowers ever on Earth is a maypop. They are the coolest looking. They look like they dropped from an alien spaceship.
Yeah, they're gorgeous, but it is an aggressive.
Aggressive is a nice word.
I'm full of regret still for planting it where I planted it. It's going to be growing there forever. Yeah. But yes, I would say that it would recover. Now with stuff in containers, I mean, you're not always guaranteed. I had a Rose of Sharon for years in a container. That would be fine throughout the winter, and then one spring it just didn't come back. So they do better, or a lot of things do better in the ground. Not necessarily everything, but that one, I mean, like I said, I can't kill it. So
it's coming back.
It's coming on back.
It's coming.
All right. Here's a good question. Your favorite tall perennials?
Tall.
You can go so many places.
I would say probably Saladago and Ironweed and
some good natives. Joy would be happy.
Yeah, the like David I phlox and those are
I was thinking
Good.
tall garden phlox. I like
Yeah.
tall garden phlox,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, I do too.
It's a
except-
good plant. It gets powdery mildew kind of bad sometimes. If you can avoid that,
Yeah.
then tall garden phlox is really nice to put out behind stuff as a taller perennial.
Now in the shade, I would say, what would you say in the shade for a taller one? Maybe an ostrich fern or
Oh yeah, God, I love ostrich fern.
what about I'm
Sun
thinking-
King Aurelia.
Yeah. What about anemone?
There it is.
Anemone, the old
Yeah.
windflower blooms in the fall. You don't see they're actually
Yeah.
blooming right now. You don't see those blooming, or you don't notice those until the fall whenever they are blooming. But they are great. They just blow in the breeze.
Are those the big orange ones that are out there? I saw one yesterday that caught my eye that's blooming, just hasn't seen anything all year long. It was bright orange, UT orange kind of a color on the flower.
Bright orange. Would it look like this? Is it more like celosia?
No, it was actually more like daffodilly looking almost.
Daffodilly. Oh God, this is gonna kill me.
Okay.
Think on it.
Orange. What's orange?
I mean,
right now?
orange. Dun, dun,
My
We're all
favorite,
stumped.
my favorite
Dun,
tall
dun, dun.
perennial is like a beard tongue penstemon. I really
You like
those are
penstemon?
good.
Okay, y'all are talking
do.
special. Not
You
yet.
don't like.
Y'all-
I like it too.
I'm not big on penstemon.
Austin.
I mean, my
Come
favorite
on.
tall perennial, which is perennial here, people say it's not, is Brugmansia, and that gets real tall.
We're just talking about angel trumpet.
8 feet tall. It's basically
Well, I would
Becomes
say
a
it's
tree.
it's a soft perennial. It if it gets cold enough, it's not coming back.
another thing that I've dug up multiple times and
And
will
tried
not-
to kill?
and will not go away. I haven't tried to kill it. I just like to move it because it gets so big, and
But its root system is like extensive, ain't it?
it is. It was harder to dig that plant up than it was to dig up my limelight hydrangeas, which
Wow.
was a big
Okay. Hmm.
surprise. And it shoots off pups that it gets fuller and fuller every year. But it's huge. It creates like a giant screen almost in my front yard.
Is that the one with the big pendulous white flowers?
Yes,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
hang down.
Yeah, hang down,
It's
yeah.
poisonous.
Oh yeah.
Very.
It's blooms at night. It's one of my favorite plants.
Smells good.
It smells amazing, but don't put your nose in that flower.
It's okay to put your
No.
nose in it. Well, I'm not going there.
We're not going.
Anyway,
Go there.
another good thing about angel trumpet is that you can take cuttings from it super easy. Literally take a stick that's like this long and stick it in the dirt, and it's going to root. They root easier
Yeah.
than any plant I think I've ever seen. For a woody plant, it's crazy. You stick them right in, they root.
It's a
Even
great
easier
plant.
than unanimous or unimous.
You on a moose? You on a moose?
Are you on a moose? I don't know. I'm not.
Euonymus. That's how you pronounce it. While we're on this subject, arborvitae. That's
Yes.
how you
It's
pronounce
arbor
it.
vitae.
No, it's not.
Another tall perennial I'm a fan of, and is more are these tall grasses,
Got
switch
to.
grasses.
Oh, the switch is the best.
Yeah, that's prairie winds, Apache rose.
Is that where we're putting grasses now? Is I just thought they were their own category, but I guess they're
it's a
lumped into
perennial, right?
perennial. Well,
I
I mean,
guess we could-
technically anything
yeah.
that comes back every year is a perennial, but okay.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah, I guess grasses are fine there and there. You know what else that I passed one on my way home, and it is a very large perennial hibiscus. If you
Oh, that's
don't
true.
know, there's
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
varieties of perennial
They get
hibiscus
big,
that
yeah.
get gangly,
Yeah.
big old long
Look
leggy.
at those arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Get them back up there.
I mean, they're like 6 to 8 foot tall, and I think that's too leggy. Doesn't look good to me. You need to shorten those in the spring so we get a bushier habit. But perennial hibiscus can get kind of big if you let it.
Mine died this year, so
So,
I'm still a little bit upset about that.
Hey guys, on the Bates Facebook page, Nate Mullen is asking if we have any experience with Volex poison pellets to kill voles, because he said he has tried Enlighten, and it partially works when the roots grow past the Enlighten barrier and stun plants, if not kill them. So he's looking, got 50 plants that he wants to get in the ground, but he's got a major vole problem.
I am not an advocate for poison outside.
yeah.
Just me personally.
I've never
So,
used Volex. I don't know what the active ingredient is in that.
Yeah,
that
because
kills
you
them.
you may end up getting animals that you don't target.
Right.
Exactly.
So
cats, dogs, birds, hawks. I mean, I mean, that's a personal thing for any of those rodenticides as they're out there. Again, you call some old friends over at Dickens Supply, and you can call them. They've got
Yeah.
like 50,000 stores in
Oh,
Middle
yeah.
Tennessee.
yeah, seems
And
like it.
They'll give you some options there, but any of those I'm not a big fan on. I'm sure that they probably work as listed, but when a mole's vole is running through the ground, you're not going to see him, but somebody's going to dig him up and see what's going on with it.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Okay.
I could be wrong. It's been known to happen. But
All right, we got a couple more questions. Are
Yes,
we ready?
we do. Let's keep it going.
All right, this is kind of fun one. I want to move 2 12-foot Italian cypresses into big pots. Ooh,
Why?
is now a good time? Sounds like a
Wow.
Is that a good idea? And how?
crazy wild time.
Where do you live? This is coming from Big Fat Frog. Hey.
Good morning, Big Fat Frog.
Italian cypress is a little risky here. And when I say a little risky, I mean kind of a lot risky. In South Carolina, you see them doing great. Here in Middle Tennessee, Italian cypress, though, we don't even barely sell Italian cypress, y'all. We don't really want to. I know I've got a good friend of mine in Adams who worked with us for years, Shane Burton, who worked at Opryland Hotel for a while. And their main horticulturist that worked out there for their plants tries to use Italian cypress, or did back in the day, a number of times, multiple years in a row he tried, and every winter they died.
Yeah.
So I don't know where you live. I mean, a 12-foot plant is a big plant. I can tell you. I mean, it doesn't matter what plant we're talking about. We can tell you how to move it or whatever. It's called work. I mean, it's going to be a big, heavy
I
root
would get it,
system.
if I were even going to begin to try that, I would bring in a tree spade.
For sure.
Without
For
any
question
question
If it's
at
planted
all.
in the ground, yeah. I mean, a 12-foot plant.
Well,
is
but
huge.
the thing is, it may be close to a house or a
Right.
structure. A tree spade's not very advisable in that situation.
So
But-
you
unless
may
maybe he's buying a 12-foot Italian cypress.
No,
That's
I think he's saying he wants to take it out of the ground and put it into a pot. And,
Yes.
we're going to find a container big enough for that.
Yeah.
You wanna
You'd have
put
to
it-
build something, really.
probably build a box or
Yeah.
something. And
You're talking about a root ball, and depending on usually it's 3
Right.
inches for every
Well,
1 caliper inch.
Yes.
you
But-
want to get as much root as you can.
Yes.
So I mean, you're
Absolutely.
But in answer to the question, when to do it is definitely, especially with something that mature, would be when it's dormant. So in the wintertime when the sap is mostly in the roots and it's not actively growing. So you've got a couple months here before you could really think about doing it.
yeah,
So
that's
But
gonna be
Big Frog, comment and tell us where you are, because we do have people that are watching the show all over the country.
Yeah.
That really is a very good question, Austin. To know what's going on.
But that's big. That's going to be a job.
Monster.
ready.
Yeah.
Monster.
yeah.
All right.
Okay. Native perennial for full sun rain garden has aster and phlox and replacing 6-foot rudbeckia.
6-foot rudbeckia.
That's big.
That is a big
It
one.
is big.
Native perennial for full sun rain garden. Hey, we talked about perennial hibiscus earlier. That's certainly
good
good
one.
for a rain garden. Grasses, or switchgrass specifically, like we earlier talked about,
Yep.
great for rain gardens.
Yep.
Iron butterfly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Joe Pyeweed does
Joe
well.
Pyeweed,
yeah,
yeah.
in that scenario. They get
Yeah.
pretty large. That's a good native, good for the insects.
We do carry a dwarf called Baby Joe Pie.
Uh-huh.
Would
It's a little smaller.
would milkweed work there too?
I think milkweed, with especially the swamp milkweed.
Yeah.
Would
And
certainly
common
do well.
milkweed.
And common
If you can
milkweed.
find it,
Common.
which
I
is
think-
funny.
Across the street, Great House is a business that's they're a very large installer of plants, typically
commercial sites usually.
Yeah, and they have a holding yard right across the street from us, and they have a lot of plants out there. But they've done a nice job out in front of their building. They had a very wet area that when the water runs down the hill, it collects. So they literally got a rain garden, and they used what I noticed. They use a lot of the stuff we've already talked about, but they also use Amsonia, which I thought was cool. I did not know Amsonia was a rain garden approved, but theirs is looking really good. And Amsonia, y'all, is such
In the fall,
in
that's
the
awesome.
fall, it's
Yeah.
a beautiful,
What would a
beautiful
common
plant.
name for that be? It's one of these.
What blue star?
I think it's Blue Stars. It's called Blue Star.
Yeah, I mean that's
Yeah.
all I know it as. Just Amsonia. It's a feathery like plant. There's a couple different
Arkansas
varieties.
Blue Star.
Arkansas
Yeah.
blue. Yeah. So it blooms blue in the springtime, which is always pretty, and then in the fall though, it lights up with all these yellow and orange tones on a fairly large, almost shrub by the end of the season. They can get pretty big. Great in massing. Really, really cool plants. So something you ought to check out. We've got some good ones right now too. They're just starting to turn that fall color that we all love. So another one that you're just going to clear cut back to the dirt and watch it regrow from the ground every year.
Well, speaking of color, Austin, why don't you tell us
What's in bloom?
with Austin?
What is in bloom? I was trying to talk to Caroline this morning about it. Like, give me some ideas. What's in bloom? There is not a lot of things blooming right now, y'all.
Same
I'm
thing
sorry.
as last week.
Yeah, pretty much.
Crepe myrtles.
Crepe myrtle's still a little bit showing. Obviously, mums are popping off. We got those. Asters in your yard are certainly blooming. But I wanted to kind of feature a plant. And we brought it in today. It's right out here in front of us. It's the same color as me. Celosia. So celosia is an annual, y'all, okay? It does not
Celosia
come
lady.
back from its roots every year. It's not a perennial whatsoever. It dies back. But almost all the time you see celosia return from seed. All of these blooms that you see here, which are beautiful right now, and around town, look around. There's some really big, beautiful celosia right now. Some of them in really deep maroon colors. This one's more of an orange one. There's also yellow ones. Really, really bright and colorful. And they come on a lot later in the season. They're in like deep, full show right now. But it's a good little plant to grow, and it reseeds. So even though it is annual, you'll see it return a lot of times without doing anything. Just literally let the seed heads stay up for a while, and they'll end up dropping seed, and they'll re-come up every year. I've got a random celosia at the house. My wife decided to do some pots last year. She did celosia. Well, she loves celosia. Shout out, Jilly. How you doing? And we put them in pots, and then randomly this year by my trash bin over in a random spot of the yard, there's celosia popping up, and it's like 3 feet tall, and it is blooming full show right now. I did nothing. It just returned. So, celosia. Little shout out. It's a good little annual. I like it. I don't know.
It's pretty.
It is pretty, especially right now. They're all over. They look good. Grow them in pots, grow them in the ground, no matter what.
And there's one kind that kind of looks like a brain.
That's
wow.
true.
Can't remember
Yeah, it
what that
does.
one's called, but
Yeah.
it's like maroon, and instead of growing in this little kind of upright,
It's
growth
a
habit,
ball.
it's like
It's a ball of brain.
brainy. Yeah, it's a great Halloween plant. If you want to make a goth fall planter like I do every fall, I have my Halloween spooky plants. That's a great one to
I think
add.
they call them coxcomb.
Yes,
I
they
think.
do.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the brainy
love that
looking
one.
ones.
Brainy looking.
They also make great dried flowers.
a good
They
point.
kind of hold their color and their shape.
point.
So, towards the end of the season when frost is hitting, you're about to lose them. You can cut them, hang them, dry them, and then put them in a vase.
Well, I noticed something this week is that hot spell that we had popped the knockouts, and it's like slapped
Yeah.
them awake this week.
That
Yep.
definitely happened. I noticed that this morning. Knockout roses are blooming. And hey, while you are talking about goth Halloween containers, I know you love that. But what we brought in the studio this week, look at this.
Goth grass.
The black mondo green. It's like blackish greenish with a little white stripe.
It's so cool.
Great for a dark look in a container. It bounces off so many things. It adds good texture and flow.
I've
It's
never
a good
thought
one.
about putting it in a container
You
before.
know why? It's expensive.
Uh-huh.
It is.
it
I
is.
think these are $12.99, right?
These
Yeah,
are
we offer-
$20.
That's not expensive.
Oh,
But look, you got two in this pot. So if you've got two planters, which I do,
there you go. This one has
look
3.
oh my
Look,
gosh.
y'all, find plants that have multiples in them and separate them. Get 3 for $20 instead of 1.
Someone's got a great video on that as well.
I don't know
Austin
who that
using
is.
a Sawzall cutting up
Once
plants.
again,
Now this
he's
goth
slashing prices by slashing the plants.
slashing. Well, again, you're multiplying it by dividing.
It's
So
divide and conquer.
Yep. Now, all of these plants that he's been talking about, you got your celosias, you got your goth plants, you got your mums, you got everything. They're all available here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center.
That is correct.
I
Now,
mean,
you got your switch grasses here. You got these right here that are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4s. They're Tribechias or
Rutabaga.
Black-eyed
Close.
Susan.
Black Eyed Susan. But I think those are the annual variety, correct?
Okay.
Yes, that
Yeah.
is correct.
you can get lucky. They'll come back from seed too.
I
though, a
would
lot of times.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the variety here at the
Yes.
Bates is
It's unmatched.
unparalleled.
Yeah.
Now, Tyler and I were talking about seeing pansies this morning before the show, and you guys are covered up with pansies.
Yes.
But I noticed at a certain box store that they had like minimal amount of them, very few. I mean, in limited colors, but you've got.
We have an ocean of them in our greenhouse.
So-
I mean, literally,
Oh
you look
my
over
gosh.
racks and racks and waves and waves. Pansies and violas, both just in their prime. And then we've
And
also
this-
even got some that our annuals greenhouse manager, Melissa McKay, started. They're still not quite ready yet, but
That's right.
They
Yeah.
are. There's some Baker Creek varieties that are even kind of more specialized.
So where you go. You go to 3810 Whites Creek Pike. That's 1.2 kilometers north of Bradley Parkway at exit 19. They're open today, open tomorrow too. So you go close at 4 on both
7 days a week.
7 days a week. But you got to come see the variety. As I mentioned earlier in the show, they've got some massive trees. The tree lot is
full.
It's amazing, and the trucks just keep coming. They all come on Fridays about before noon. So.
Apparently, that's the case.
You got pottery and you got Caroline's department. I'm sure it's smacking and going out there too. So
well, isn't this week indoor plant week or something?
It is.
Next week?
It's National Indoor Plant Week.
There you go.
Speaking of, Bates Nursery is partnered with Nashville Plant People. That is at Nash Plant People on Instagram, and I'll go ahead and add that to my little ticker. We're doing a giveaway. $50 gift card. And
Whoa.
a bag of Earth Mix Proganics indoor soil. And then 2 runners up get a bag of Proganics indoor as well.
Very nice.
So it's a great occasion to just celebrate having plants in our houses. Nashville Plant People is a really cool group. They offer lots of tips and advice, and you can talk with other people. Plant swaps, anyone? They are just a really great force. They got a big Facebook presence, but they're growing their Instagram too. So
very cool. It's 90 years they've been doing this, folks. They know what they're doing. So come out to Bates and go sign up for the Bates Rewards Club. Yeah, you got to get that because you get to know about all the stuff first.
Yeah, you'll get David's
blog is every week. Go out to Nashville Scene, vote for the blog, vote for Bates Nursery's Best in Nashville. And folks, it is worth the drive from anywhere. It's right here. All righty. Speaking of that, beyond what we've already talked about, what's going on in the room, do we have any more questions?
Yes, we do. Are you ready for another?
Why not?
Let's get a houseplant question.
Okay.
Let's get it.
Let's get it. Let's go on and get it. Favorite statement tree for a houseplant. So I guess you're talking about a tree form, something. Ficus is a good option if you have enough light, and something that's going to make a big old statement would be the Taneki variety. It's a variegated leaf. It has white edging, like bright white with light green and dark green on the inside. It is gorgeous. I have one. It's a talking point when I have people over for all those fancy parties.
Now, what about Bird of Paradise? Is that another, you would say, tree?
I wouldn't necessarily call it tree.
They can get kind of big.
They can get huge. And they're cool. They're a little bit more common. You see them a lot in malls back when, I'm going back
people
to the
went
90s.
to malls.
When people went to
When you
malls.
had malls, yes.
You see them around people will put them by their pool. So it's a little bit more common, but yeah, the Taneki ficus and triangularis is also another variegated variety that I really, really like. A little bit harder to find. And if you're just looking for something that's going to be eye-catching and really
do we have
some
any
conversation? Yes, we do. We have both of those. And we also have the ruby ficus, which is very similar to the Taneki with the variegation, but it's a red leaf. So it comes out really, really dark red. As it matures, it loses that red a little bit. It stays a little bit more light pink, but it does also have that white variegation in the leaf with the green. So Taneki, ruby, Bird of Paradise, they're all great options to add to your home.
But what's still the most popular option?
I don't want to say
Indoor?
Say it.
Fiddle leaf fig.
The fiddle leaf fig. It's infamous.
It is infamous.
It is.
And people kill that more than any other houseplant.
But they shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
It's not that hard.
It can be hard for some people.
Is it?
But
Do they overwater them?
they overwater them.
Yeah.
They
And underlight them.
They care too much is what's happening.
It does. Well, they use it like furniture.
Yeah.
They're like, I got a dark corner. A plant would look good in there. Fiddle leaf fig's so cool because it's got massive leaves and they're fun.
They're finicky, and if they stress at all, plants will show you that they're struggling, that they're stressing, and they need something to change by dropping their leaves or their leaves yellowing. And fiddle leaf fig, Ficus lyrata, will do it very, very quickly. You won't really know anything's wrong, especially if you haven't dealt with a lot of houseplants.
Right.
Until
Yeah, and
those
their leaves are
dropping.
so big you can hear it like in your
Huge.
bedroom.
Yeah, it'll scare you. It'll wake you up at
you
night
think
when
somebody's
that
in your
huge
house.
leaf falls
Yeah.
down. And one thing about that plant, once it loses its leaves, it doesn't really tend to re-leaf. It will rebranch out of those little nodes where the leaves came off, but you usually don't get new leaf growth. So if you did something wrong, if you overwatered that ficus in relation to it not getting enough light, it loses its leaves. It's not going to grow those new leaves out. It's just going to rebranch, which we'll give it a different look. It'll be a little more
Shrubbier.
full, but yes, it will be shrubbier. So not that I'm saying don't get one, but you see them everywhere. So that wouldn't really be a statement. People will walk into your house and be like,
if you
seen
grow
it
a nice
before.
one and it's looking good and healthy and not horrible like most of them are, most of the houses I go to and I see fiddle leaf fig, they look awful.
ooh, you just smack talked
You're
all
so
your friends that
judgy.
have those.
I am judgy.
Look at that face. Just
Judging like Judy.
Now and the ficus that you were talking about, the
The Taneki?
Taneki. Now there's one called Benjamina.
Benjamina, yeah,
That's the
that's
classic.
it's a classic. I
Yeah.
actually used to hate them, and now I kind of love them. And oddly enough, they are one of the harder, more common ficus to find. We haven't been able to really get them in almost a year. Every so often it'll show up, and we'll get a couple, but those are cool. They weep. The biggest problem with them, when I say weep, it's their growth habit. The branches are pretty thin, and so it looks like it's, sad and crying a little bit.
My mother-in-law had one that had three.
Yeah.
And they braid them.
Yeah.
They're
They'll
absolutely.
come braided a lot, but they tend to they shed.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean they're dying. They just tend to do that. And so you'll be cleaning up leaves a lot. Now, there is a cool variegated Benjamina ficus, the Starlight, which I have one of those. And we do have a few of those smaller ones here at the nursery.
pretty cool.
And they're really, really cool.
Well, that
So-
one she had was so big that we used it as a Christmas tree a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that big.
My mother's had one, I think, for like 30 years. The same one, and it
How
does.
big is it?
It's not very big, but she hadn't repotted it forever. It sheds from the interior almost all the time. It's stressed, but it's fine. Keep them on the dry side, and they're better than keeping them on the wet side. She wouldn't have had it for 30 years if she's overwatered it. She's underwatered it, so they'll do a lot better that way. I think of Ficus benjamina as like that classic office building plant.
Oh, it is.
Principal's office.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're in there. So.
But ficus, good rule of thumb, they like to stay dry. I've let mine go 3 months. My fiddle leaf fig, I let go 3 months without watering just to see what would happen. And
Didn't
after
die.
3 months, it did not die. It started to get a little bit of browning on the tips of the leaves. And then I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and stop stressing this plant out and I'll give it some water. But yeah, some people come in and they're like, well, I've been watering it, every other day or once a week. Not a good thing. You want to water it less frequently, but a lot more water when you do it. So give it a couple weeks or so, and then let that water run all the way out of the bottom of that pot, and then let it dry out again.
What I remember about that one is that it did not like to get moved. It didn't like to get turned. It didn't like anything changing in its environment.
Don't even look at
Were
it.
you saying it was? You saying it was ornery?
Well, it was my mother-in-law's.
Ooh.
We love Oma.
But ficus are great house plants. Just don't love them too much, and they'll do great. Taneki, triangularis, and the variegated benjamina are 3 that I would recommend that we do have here at Bates Nursery right now if you wanted to get something today or this week. All right, we've got just a handful more questions. Does that make sense?
That works.
We've got a
That
handful
works.
of time to
you
get
guys
to them.
know what
so,
I'm saying.
yes.
Evergreen perennials, something that keeps some foliage over winter.
Well, that's an interesting question. There's not a lot of evergreen perennials. So we term perennials the ones that typically die back totally. They don't keep stems up. That's different than like, say, shrubs that stay with their sticks up, or it's an evergreen shrub that just stays up. Now, one that does come to mind that I actually sold a few of yesterday to a customer was hellebore.
Yep.
If you have some shade, hellebore keeps its leaves as a kind of I'm not going to call it a ground cover, but it's kind of short and it's kind of a spready little fella as the years go on. It's kind of slow to spread, but it will keep its foliage up through the wintertime. Now, what you need to know about hellebore is that it needs some shade. Definitely
Dry shade.
Dry shade
Yep.
is preferred with hellebore.
Yep.
Great up underneath a very large shade tree, like make a little bed up underneath that and put hellebore in there. Linton rose is a common name for hellebore, and it's an evergreen perennial that stays up.
What about
love it.
autumn fern?
Yes, the autumn fern will stay up as well. Good point. Another one for the shade.
Yep.
Don't want to blast it with sun. And then perennial, since we
Sage.
talked about grasses earlier. Oh, sedge. Sedge is a good point. Yeah, it's, that's another kind of shady-ish loving plant as
Grass.
a border kind of. It looks like a
Grassy.
grass. Yeah. But then grasses, like out of the switch grasses we talked about earlier, or really any of them, they don't stay green through the winter, but they at least stay up. So there's something to look at. They
Yeah, my
still add
switchgrass
some
looks
movement.
I've heard people that actually prefer the winter look over some of the summer
I
stuff.
thought I used to hate it, and then I owned these grasses, and I love it now. It's so cool. They make noise whenever
Yeah.
the wind blows. It's like old corn stalks or something that are, shaking in the breeze. So,
Sounds spooky.
oh yeah, cut
What
those
about,
off and put them in your.
Dianthus.
Yeah, Dianthus will
Fire
stay
Witch.
up. Mm-hmm.
It's evergreen.
It is, and that's a pretty true ground cover. A slow little spreader.
Very moundy.
Very moundy. But yeah, another good little tried and true plant.
One of my favorites. I don't think you mentioned it. I have to be honest. I zoned out looking at the next question. Not that I wasn't caring what you had to say.
What?
Heuchera. Mine stays up, especially my dark leaf variety. I feel like I talk about it all the time, but it almost looks better for me in the winter, and it stays up all winter long. Mine never dies completely back to the ground.
Another little
I
shady
love
lover.
it. A shade. Yep.
Well, you use Heuchera a lot in your mixed containers for the fall as well.
Yeah. What I do is I put one in a mixed container in the fall, and then I plant it in the spring. So
Now, did they specifically exclude conifers in what the question was?
Evergreen perennial was
They said perennial, and I think there's a lot of overlap there. So
Yeah.
people think of perennials as shrubs as well because it does perennially come back. But certainly conifers and evergreens and broadleaf evergreens are going to stay evergreen.
But usually when somebody says perennials,
Yeah.
they mean the
Something leafy.
herbaceous, lower growing
Okay.
stuff that
Yeah.
that's flowering and
That's how we differentiate anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hollies. Yeah.
Holly.
I'm with you, Dawson.
Another one you can't kill.
Yeah.
You can't kill holly.
No, I have one at the end of my driveway.
Oh,
Won't die.
cut it to the dirt. It's coming right back. Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, we have one more question.
Let's get it.
Who's
let's do
ready?
it.
It's a personal question.
Uh-oh.
Austin,
Uh-oh.
what's your very favorite tree?
Is this really a question?
It's really a question. No,
My
I made it up.
Favorite tree. This is loaded. Favorite tree. Probably. It's not Zelkova.
It is. It is. He
Certainly
talks about
not
that one
Zelkova.
all the time. He loves it.
Oh, I love dawn redwoods. There you go. Dawn redwood is probably my favorite tree. Technically a conifer, a deciduous conifer, so it drops its needles, which is rare, first off. The champion in our state, I believe, is 138 feet tall. That's big, y'all.
It's a big old
Massive.
tree.
It's at the Ellington Ag Center. You can go visit that tree if you'd like. Give it a hug. I've done that. No, of
course you have.
No, you have done that.
I haven't. Yeah, I have.
Don't try to take that.
But it is massive, and it is a sight to see. It's like, hey, go to Northern California, except you're in Middle Tennessee, and look at this redwood. I mean, it's stunning. It's beautiful. They've got really pretty, like, kind of. To a lot of people, it's not all that pretty. It's not really showy, but the fall color to me is really kind of nice. It goes this. What do you call it, Adam?
Bronze. It's bronze.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, very bronze color over the winter, or over in the fall. But it's got color change, and then whenever it is dormant and it has no leaves on it, it's got this awesome branching habit to
Yes.
where you can literally walk up it. I mean, if you keep the limbs all the way to the ground, they have this pattern to where the stems just are.
Yeah, it's almost like a stair.
It is.
stairway.
You can just climb right up it. Like if I were a kid again, I would climb that tree, and
Would you say it's a stairway to heaven?
it is
Definitely.
138-foot heaven.
Yeah, and I have one, and folks, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip. If an arborist stops and knocks on your door in the fall of the year and offers to take down your dawn redwood because it's dying,
Yeah,
They're not an arborist.
they're not a very good one.
Yeah, they don't know what they're looking at.
get off the porch.
They own a
Yeah.
chainsaw.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
No.
I'm with you. What about everybody else, real quick?
Favorite trees? Go around the room.
Oh
Caroline.
no, I don't know. I have a Dawn Redwood. I love it, and I won it in a bet.
I know what your favorite
That
tree is.
Austin lost. He had to buy me one, and now it's planted.
Get
in my
back on
front
task. I
yard.
know what your favorite tree is.
Oh, I do know what I love mimosas.
There it is.
Mimosas are. I know they're invasive, but I love them.
I'm with you. I like them too. I can't help it. Tyler.
Oh, come back around to me.
Oh gosh.
Adam,
I think y'all know what my
I
favorite
know
tree
Adams.
is.
I think I know Adams.
Serviceberry.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Adam makes awesome service berry
Best.
muffins.
Cobbler,
Oh,
muffin,
Cobbler,
muffins.
so
yeah.
good.
So good.
mufflers.
Adam loves the service
Yeah,
berry.
that's my favorite.
All right.
Josh.
Josh.
I think probably my Mukiyama Japanese.
Oh yeah,
maple.
that's
Oh,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Big old
Mr.
fat weeper.
Mr. Wu
Mr.
is his name.
All right.
Nice.
Tyler.
Tyler?
Okay.
Back to Tyler.
I guess it's so hard for me to decide.
But you have to.
I like the pawpaw tree.
There you
Really?
go. That's another good native.
Yep. It's
Really?
the largest native fruiting tree.
A friend of
In
mine,
America.
speaking of pawpaw, a friend of mine bought some property in Portland recently. like 50 acres or something.
Wow.
And he sent me this picture last week or week before. He's like, "What is this?" And he sent me a picture of the leaves and then the fruit. And I was like, "I'm pretty sure you have a pawpaw." And he was like, "Well, there's dozens of
Oh
them."
man.
Nice.
So he has like 2 or 3 groves of these things on his property. And I was
sweet.
like, dude, there are people that would kill to have those.
Yes, definitely. You got lucky.
They are
Yeah.
getting quite trendy on
And
some
he
of the
didn't even know
gardening
what
sites.
They are.
he was, he didn't know they were there when he bought the property.
Yeah, and
so.
it's a pretty nondescript leaf, really. You
Yes.
know, it's like it
Yes.
kind of just looks like a leaf. It's hard, even for us as professionals that do this. You look at that leaf and you're like, man, that's kind of hard to identify without like
It
more
is.
pictures.
I keep glancing and doing second thing. I think that's a pawpaw. That's
Yeah.
a pawpaw. And like it's kind of a challenge when I go out in the woods, and they kind of grow near like streams and
They do. And
lower
but usually
They're
the
sneaky
biggest
too, they
understory.
hide.
Yeah, the biggest clue is that there's almost never just one. It's usually several.
A few in a stand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know what's funny? We have 15-gallon pawpaw trees right now, which
Oh,
since
wow.
I've worked
And I
here,
was
I
gonna
don't think
say
we've
that.
had that.
It's the largest ones we've ever had.
Yes.
Probably better chances at fruiting earlier
yeah.
if
Yeah.
Because they're
not-
more mature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if they not fruit already. And home to the zebra swallowtail.
There
Yes.
you go.
The host
go.
plant, you
There you
can't
go.
beat it.
No.
Fruit
Great native.
and butterflies.
Never eaten one.
Those are our
Never
favorite
had
trees.
one.
Oh my gosh! Speak of the time,
All righty,
It's a
folks.
quick one.
All right.
we went right up to the end there.
David's going to be back next week. He's out on assignment, as we said, but he'll be here. Adam, thanks for sitting in. And
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for
My
sitting in
pleasure.
the last few weeks.
My
I
pleasure.
appreciate you having my back. Tyler, Cary, Austin, thanks for being here.
Glad
Hey,
to be here.
And thank you folks for being here, because that's
That's
what we
right.
do the
Thank
show
you.
for. We appreciate you joining us every Saturday morning. As we said earlier, like us on every format on social media so you can spread the word so we can continue doing this for you. And come out to Bates today to see what's going on. We'll see you here from the Green Room Studios at Bates Nursery Garden Center next Saturday morning at 0800.